It's an interesting time in India's history. We have a woman president, we have a woman finance minister, and we have a woman heading up SEBI. Women are literally over the moon in India, having played a key role in the lunar and solar missions that India just sent out. In my interaction with the Prime Minister a couple of weeks ago, he said that Nari Shakti was the essential ingredient for India to hit the 5 trillion mark. But according to the WEF gender parity report, it would take 131 years to close this gap. To discuss easy problems such as this, I have a super hot panel in our very cold studio in the snow from Davos. Dipali Goenka is the CEO and MD of WellSpan, a global leader in home solutions, and her vision is Har Ghar Mein WellSpan. A little bit like Har Ghar Mein Nal, but okay. Priya Agarwal Heber is the chairperson of Hindustan Zinc, India's largest and world's second largest producer of zinc. And Devjani Ghosh is the first woman president of NASCO, an apex body of the technology industry of India. Welcome. Since we're just 2 weeks into the new year, and we're still in January, New Year's resolutions are still hot. Devjani, you had a great one. You had Daniel Craig grooving to Get Up and Drive That Funky Soul in 2024, and that's the vibe. Would you care to elaborate, please?
Daniel Craig is a vibe.
Definitely a vibe. Everyone in this panel is suddenly feeling hotter.
He's a vibe. But, I did that because I was, just before I posted that, I was reading quite a few of the predictions, the usual 2024 predictions. And everyone they're so optimistic about how 2024 will solve every single problem out there. Everything that went wrong in 2023 will be right in 2024. So I was sort of thinking about that. This has to be magic. And whenever I think magic, that's the name that comes to mind. So I sort of posted that saying this is the vibe of 2024, where we believe that everything that went wrong earlier or that didn't work earlier is going to work. So all fingers crossed. Let's see what happens.
So you are feeling very optimistic about 2024?
Mixed.
Daniel is there to pep you up anytime you start flagging.
I think there's a lot of work, at least for technology. There's just tremendous amount of work left to be done.
Okay. Priya, you talk about the seeds that you have sown, and some of those will come to fruition in 2024. Talk to us a little bit about what are those seeds that you've sown, and what are you kind of expecting and excited about in 2024?
Being a woman in a male-dominated sector, a very hardcore mining and natural resources sector, when I entered the boardroom for the first time, very young girl, anxious, nervous, with 8, 10 male head honchos around me, extremely experienced. I didn't know what to expect. And the first thing I felt was, this needs to change. There needs to be inclusivity at all different kinds of levels. Unless we have that, we're not going to see progress. And from that day, really, it was a mission. And today we're close to having 30% women in our leadership. And not only that, we're talking about women. In 2019, women were legalized to go underground and mine. Hindustan Zinc was the first company in India to get women underground. Yeah. And these are women who are driving forklifts, the first women rescue team of India. And we have an entire mine which is run primarily by women now. It's so amazing because you go to them, you speak to them, and you know what they say? The first thing a few days ago when I went and met them, they said, Priya, I feel safer when I'm 1 kilometer under the ground. It gives me goosebumps. It's an amazing feeling, and that's progress. That's where we have to head.
So
and there's no looking
come back to that. Women
Absolutely.
on top of the world by being underground.
Absolutely.
We'll come back to that. Dipali, let's talk about yours. You made yours public so that others can motivate you to stay committed. Can you talk a little bit about those?
So for me, I think I started working when I was 30 and my girls were like 7 and 10. For me, again, it was a male-dominated textiles, and for me to come on board was a big deal. People felt that people were like, is WellSpan serious about what they're doing? And I think the interesting thing here was that people didn't realize that the other side is a woman. The decision maker is a woman. And I think what a woman can do and make a difference, nobody else can. And for me, I played on my strengths here, Kali. And I think for me, that was the game changer. Because today, I'm talking about Har Ghar Se Har Dil Tak Wellspun, but I think present in 50 countries across the globe, and a vendor and a partner of choice to all the global retailers, and a choice for a product for home in India. I think the important thing is thinking consumer, thinking the way she's going to buy, the buying habits that she has, is really made a lot of difference. But one more thing just I want to add on. 30% women, as Priya said, was a big task for me, because to influence the family, to get the women and share the workload was a big deal. But today, happy to say that, not only blue collar associates are there, but white collar as well, around 12%. And it's a long way for us to go. But yeah, the journey's begun.
So one of the things, I'm going to come back to the 30%, but one of the things that you said in your New Year's post, and that really resonated with me and I'm sure with other women, is you talk about wanting to spend more time with the family, more time with your daughters, having more time to read, which kind of alludes to balance, right? Having that elusive balance in life. Now, what is your secret sauce? How do you do it?
I think by creating more leaders. And it's not easy to say that. I think it's about sharing your vision. And I think the other person being more motivated and running with that vision of yours, which is, is a very important part of what you do. And I think saying empowering is less done, but I think leading it in the way of by an example, where everybody holds that vision and is excited to be part of that vision, is a big deal. From the blue collar to the white collar and to my global teams across. I think that's what it is, and I think that's the purpose. And if you've done that, I think half your work is done.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
I think balance is impossible. I absolutely believe balance is
Realist.
impossible. Okay, it's more about integrating both lives with each other or into each other, right? And something a mentor of mine taught me, and it's a beautiful thing, and I use it. I use this every day, literally, maybe multiple times every day. She said, you have two balls. One is rubber, one is crystal. When you drop the rubber ball, it'll bounce back. When you drop the crystal ball, it'll shatter. Every day, based on priorities, you have to decide which is which. And no regrets. No
That is
apologies,
fabulous.
no regrets. When you decide family is the crystal ball, you will communicate that to everyone you need to communicate, and you will ensure you do not drop that ball. And when you decide work is crystal, you'll do the same. And I have used that mantra literally every day of my life. Because I think balance is impossible. It's about figuring out your priorities, and it's about communication, as you just said, so that people understand the other side.
Okay. Priya, you are a younger generation, you are a younger mother, and we were just discussing in the room outside that maybe things have changed a little bit, right? And mothers or women are not feeling guilt, because that's one of the things that comes with ambition, right? Oh, she's ambitious now, I feel guilty about that. So talk us a little bit about that.
So, a few different things here. For me, number one, actually, I changed when my daughter was born. When she was born, I looked at her and I said, she needs to see a mother who inspires her, and she needs to see a mother and a woman and a man who's her father, who's supporting that. And she needs to see a woman in front of her who she can be or be better than. So it's up to us first and foremost to ensure that we are their role models. And I'm telling you, the day she was born, I changed completely.
Beautiful. So Dipali, you said this as well, because you came back, you married early at 18, came from a traditional background, and then after your daughters at 30, you went back to work, which is an unusual decision. I want you to talk us a little bit about that, talk us through that a little bit, because there are a lot of women who start families and then they get out of the workforce and they don't have the confidence to come back.
Yeah.
So what did it take? How did you fight your inner demons to do that?
It was just not just the inner demons, but also kind of, very interestingly, coming from a Marwari community, very, very traditional. I have two daughters. The big question was that you don't have a son. And who's going to take this forward? For me, that was a very important aspect.
outer demons.
The outer demons, yeah. And leading it from there, actually, and I wanted to set an example and open the door for my girls. And that's where it began from, Kali. For me, it was there that they need to see a mother who can do it from a homemaker to, becoming an
And
entrepreneur.
do they see it?
They see it. My younger daughter's leading a brand, Christie, in UK, and taken that forward. And I think that really makes a difference. And plus, I think for women who work in my offices and my factories, they feel safe as well.
Yeah.
The communities that you work with, I think women have that softer side that really makes a lot of difference as well. So I think it truly is, and we always say at Wellspun, leading tomorrow together. It's truly that for us as well.
Deep, Johnny, from what I've heard, you didn't have that much of a traditional background because you were the first woman CEO of Intel. So you've been supported by your family to have a career and to have ambitions. So how important do you see that role of the family? Not to have those outer demons, but to have outer angels, so to say.
Couldn't have done anything without it. Absolutely. I mean, that is so important. I mean, I grew up in a very, very large joint family, with lots of boys. And I was the youngest and I was a girl. And my dad from day one was, whatever these guys do, you're going to do it better. Right? I mean, that was pretty much. And, I think it's amazing, and this is what I always tell young parents to do this. When you have those ambitions for your child, you have to first communicate it. They have to know. No one reads your mind, right? They have to know that you believe in them. You believe in their ability to do something big. Because of all the boys in the family, there used to be a lot of talk about sports, and I remember space because that was a fascination, and politics. And Dad would always ensure when he's talking about it, he would give women examples. Right. One of the things my parents got very scared because I was to hear, and that time one of the politicians was Margaret Thatcher. So I started looking up to her.
We're going to have a prime minister in the family.
That scared Dad a bit.
So Priya, you married for love.
Absolutely.
And how important is the role your husband has played in your growth and in making the decisions? Because you also grew up with a very traditional background, right? You were not allowed to go out, etc. And there you made a jump now, and you're heading up the Hindustan Zinc company.
It was a big deal when I broke it to my father that I've been I want to marry someone who I've known for quite some time, and he's not from the community we're in, nor is he from a business family. I think he broke down first. But then, when they met, everything changed, and that's because, and I think that's what's important today. I think in urban India at least, the support that men give to family, to their children. Today, when I'm traveling or when I'm out for work, he's very much 100% their hands-on father. He's there, he's guiding her, he's teaching her. But the problem comes when we're talking about the masses, when we're talking about India as a country and as a whole, and we're talking about the care economy overall. We're talking about women and the privileges that the three of us have got in terms of education and support from our families. A lot of them do not have, and it's up to us now to inspire, to motivate in whatever area we can, how we can collaborate with the government and their schemes and in initiatives that they're taking, such that we can really at least in our organizations, motivate and inspire these women to come on board. I was saying a story, yesterday that last year I met our head of security at Hindustan Zinc is a woman, and she's part of the LGBTQ community. And she told me last year that, Priya, I have two dreams. I want to buy my mother a house, and I want to adopt a baby girl. And just a few weeks ago, she called me and she said, Priya, I've done both. Wow. And this is India. This is today. This is in a small town in Rajasthan where ladies are seen to be even more backward than the rest of the country. This lady has done what she believed and what she truly wanted to do. So if you dream, if you want to do something, there's nothing that can stop you from doing it. It's up to us to ensure we inspire and we enable as much as we
So
can.
let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because all three of you come from industries which are pretty male dominated, right? You are coming from the manufacturing of like a factory blue collar space. You're coming in from mines. You're coming in from tech, which is known for not having enough women, right? What are the things that you think we can do or other people can do as well to increase participation? Can we do a rapid fire on that? Okay. So I'll just go around like a round robin. Okay. Creches or childcare at work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
More of it.
Menstrual leave.
I think flexible leave to both genders when you need it. And you decide. Because sometimes we overdo also. It's not that menstrual leave is not important, but make it flexible.
We have a no questions asked policy that we've just released. It means you can take a day off the month, no questions asked. It's not about menstrual. It's about general, like she was saying, flexible working hours. Seeing what the examples that she was giving about prioritizing.
Flexibility, but not just, this is not equality, but I think flexibility for the genders, and
Both
I think
genders.
genders
Absolutely.
agnostic.
Both genders,
yeah.
I think this is very, very important.
Okay. Supportive partners. And how do you do that a little bit, with a class maybe which is not as educated, where maybe the family is not being as supportive? What can you do about that, or what have you done?
Sheryl Sandberg said this so beautifully that if you have ambitions, then marrying who you choose to marry is the most important career decision you make. I think it's so important to educate women. And whenever I'm talking to young women, especially in schools, colleges, that's the one thing I talk about. You cannot keep your ambitions closed. You cannot keep it hidden. Cannot come as a surprise. You have to tell your partner or to-be partner. And if he reacts in a way that you are surprised, then maybe you need to look for another.
I think it's, exactly what she said in terms of education, but for men and women. And, especially in the masses, in the rural areas where the mother-in-laws are very important. We've seen a lot of the decision making is done by the mother-in-law and the father-in-law. So, when you have self-help groups, and we have a self-help group in, Udaipur, they make it a point that they go into houses across their communities to make sure they're educating the entire family as to how the man and the woman can be equal, bearers at work. So I think it's exposing them to what they can do, and then making sure they themselves are going and educating individuals who are within their community. That's the only way we're going to spread the message.
Dipali?
I always say, give them wings, they'll fly. And I think the important thing here is that, we did a program with, an NGO called Swasti, where we just didn't, we actually trained the men to share the workload and the family to share the workload. And that way we got more women at the workforce. I think that was very, very important. And I think I always believe that if you empower a woman, you're empowering not herself, but the communities and the children as well. I mean, a growth of 5 trillion GDP that India is dreaming of. And if the communities and women are empowered, I think that's the way we'll see a difference happen.
So you talk a lot about EQ and why that's important. Now, talk us a little bit about the emotional quotient, and how does that play out at the workplace?
So you know what? I think let me speak about the EQ in the terms of business. Okay. I think I'll tell you about textiles, and I think for me we run a brain trust globally, where we find out what the consumer is looking at, and to see that what is she wanting to buy is an ability. So I think Devjani, to even tech or AI. Yes. The ability to predict and forecast what she's going to buy after 3 months, or whether in Midwest in America or in Madhya Pradesh or in down south, what is she planning to buy? I think the ability to see that is a very important thing. It's not just selling a towel or a sheet for me, or just the production that a lot of people look at in manufacturing.
So that intuitive feel you think is better with women?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the experience. I mean, you can ramp up that consumer experience like how? Anywhere.
You've talked about it, that you walk into the office now because you've got a 30% increase in the women leadership, and you feel this female energy. Absolutely. And it makes you happy. What is that female energy?
I think it's just about, it's about seeing that we're actually going towards that direction. It's going to take some time where we stop talking about women empowerment. we start talking about women-led development, we start talking about inclusivity. In fact, we lose the word women altogether. We're talking about just leaders. We're talking about you're here because you're capable. You're here because you want to be here. You're here because you're passionate to be here. That's really where we want to head. Of course, now because we're 127 years behind, according to the World Economic Forum, there's a bit of push we need to do. But we're all heading towards that direction as to you want to be here, so you're here. Doesn't matter. You're woman, man,
Amen.
LGBTQ, wherever, whoever you are. Doesn't matter.
Devjani, you talk about that women are important for this new
Yeah.
tech decade, right? Now, why? What is so important to have women in the technology space for all of us?
So just taking a step back,
Yeah.
if you're going to any conversation in Davos, the one thing you will hear about is supply chain resilience, right? Everyone's talking about supply chain resilience and why it's so critical for business continuity and growth. One of the things that's badly broken in the supply chain value chain is talent. Your talent supply chain is one of the biggest challenges today that CEOs are facing because of, especially in tech, because of global shortage. And every business today is tech. Every business today is digital. Hers is, right? So everybody is facing that challenge. I believe that women are the answer to bridging that gap to a very large extent. And today, the most important tech skill is not learning about AI. You can't, first of all, learn about AI. You have to do AI. You have to build AI, right? It's not learning about technologies. The most important tech skills are cognitive skills, analytical skills, creative skills. And women, I will say so, are slightly better placed when it comes to these skills. They are. It's just intuitive. It's organic. That's one reason why in our industry, at hiring, women are 52% plus. Right? And then it becomes, the average goes to around 36%. But this is the reason we need more women desperately, because these are the skills we have to build into the workplace.
So you saying the fact that women have the ability to have multitask and have multidisciplinary intelligence helps in technology?
Women are great at problem solving. I think problem solving is very natural to a woman. And that's what we need right now. Women are also good at learning. Throughout their lives, they're learning to adapt, they're learning new things, they're learning new skills. So they are much better at learning, unlearning and learning. And these are the skills, the most important skills of today is the ability to learn and the ability to problem solve, and that's where cognitive and analytics comes in.
We're going to come into AI, but I think, Dipali, you want to jump in. You have something you want to add to this.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think women tend to be better at it. I'll tell you one thing for me, it's about the threads and it's about the warp and the weft and the spinning and the weaving and about the design thinking as well. I think everywhere. And the cognitive skills, as you rightly said, I think for me, for textiles, it is far more relevant than anything else. Whether you're looking at the trends on the runway to looking at what the consumer experience is going to be, or whether you're running the factory and your machines or upskilling them, for the technology and industry 4.0. I think they are fast learners. And I think, Devjani, the important thing that you spoke about was skilling. When you're talking about this 1.4 billion, kind of people in India, I think, and the way we are ramping up for manufacturing, it's not going to be technology alone, it's going to be manufacturing. Skilling is going to be a very critical bit. So I think that's going to be a very, very important way of looking and growing India as a country.
So, Devjani, for you, actually, you in one person are all the buzzwords of 2024. Woman,
Okay.
AI,
Okay.
India.
Okay.
I am the buzzword.
I was just waiting, okay, what's going to come next?
No, so I want to get back a little bit to technology and AI, right? One of the problems that we are hearing about is that in AI, the data sets that are being used are not inclusive. And so there is a bias against women in those data sets. Now, what is it that we can do to correct that? And is it too late already?
AI is very nascent. Let's all be very clear about that. The race to AI has just about begun. The narrative has hyped up tremendously. But when you look at deployment of AI at scale, it's still work in progress.
Okay.
It still hasn't happened. And I think if 2023 was the peak of AI hype. I hope 2024 will be the valley of reality where we finally come back to what the real problem is. Where's the promise of AI? What do we have to do to unlock it, right? Now, talking about AI and bias, if you ask me to show, how do we get bias out of AI? My question is, how do we get bias out of human beings? Every human being has bias. All of us have, right? It's hardwired into us. And we have to stop forgetting that humans have a huge role in shaping AI. AI is not shaping itself as yet and will not for a very long time to come.
There's a very big debate on that, but this
There
panel
is,
is not
there
on
is,
AI,
but
so we can go back to
look
that
at the data, right? Humans are shaping AI today, and humans are shaping the AI narrative. We have to bring back the accountability on humans. It's our job to ensure we shape it right.
Yeah, but Microsoft and ChatGPT did say that they did not understand what the inner purpose of ChatGPT was to suggest suicide to a reporter and, one of them to divorce his wife. So they
Hallucination
suggested
happens.
that maybe, it is creating an inner purpose of its own.
I think that
That's
was,
not.
in technical terms, that was pure hallucination. In the early days of models, there was a lot of hallucination. Since then, there's a lot of work that has gone into cleaning up the data. And hallucinations, you won't hear about hallucinations much now.
But
It
data
has significantly
because you
come down.
can't, beyond a point, now talk to the AI, right? Like after 10 questions, it says, now this chat has to be ended. Now please start a new
Well, that's a
topic.
great way to stop
Right?
hallucinations,
Yeah.
right?
So I'm saying, is the problem being solved or has it just been celebrated?
No, it's work in progress. See, as you rightly said, it all goes back to data health, right? Where are you getting your data from? What quality is it? How are you using it, right? And what filters are you putting in place? So, and again, that's where the human accountability comes in. We have to be very clear where our data is coming from, what it looks like, how good or bad it is, and what filters are we using when we say this is good data. We have to define that, right? And we have to be transparent about that.
Are you
I think
happy
that's the
with the
next step.
efforts that are being made in the industry because you have a bird's eye view of that?
Um, I think people are waking up to the urgency, to the need. People are also waking up to the accountability that if I don't do this, I am accountable. And it has tremendous reputational damage. So people are waking up to that. So yes, it's being taken much more seriously. Can more be done? Of course.
There seems to be a bit of a paradox, right? Because they all keep talking about responsible AI. We have to make it ethical. It has to do good. But at the same time, they're going on doing more and more with it. So it's just sort of like, have you fixed the problems? Because you're making it bigger, stronger, more powerful.
There is no end goal. And I think you have to realize that with any technology, there is no finishing post or an end goal out there. The moment we take 2 steps forward, the goal post has moved behind, right? So this has to be an ongoing process. We will never get, we will always continue to try to get it right. But the one thing we have to change, and my ask to companies is, let's stop talking about making AI safe, because that means you've made AI and now you're figuring out how to make it safe. We have to build the focus back on making safe AI and build the principles around it. I think that's going to be very important.
So from what you said, that with technology, you take 2 steps forward, but there's no end goal and the goal shifts. Technology is a woman. Technology is definitely
She's like completely zapping me right now.
I think technology has a gender and it's woman.
Okay. If you say so, I'll go with it.
So I would like to know, right, since so many of us do so many different roles, is technology going to give us a digital twin soon? I think Priya and Dipali and me, and maybe you as well, would quite like a digital twin.
Absolutely.
The focus has to be on use cases, right? And this is where we go wrong with technology. We keep getting carried away with all these cool things. To do what? I would love a digital twin from a healthcare perspective. I would love a digital twin which is being analyzed, so I don't have to spend all my time there to figure out, not just what is wrong, but what can go wrong. So again, we have to think about how we want to use technology, and we have to start articulating what problem is it going to solve. We can't just create cool technology for the sake of it.
What cool technology or what would you want your digital twin to do for you?
You know, for our industry, safety. You know, I think that is core to what I would like the digital twin to do, because, you know, for us, our core purpose and future objective is to get everyone out of the mine. We have to work from, and we already have been quite successful in doing a lot of that. The kind of number of people that were working in mines now, we've cut it down by maybe 60 to 70%. And now everything that's being operated down there is through the corporate office, and you can't even imagine. It's absolutely amazing, and I think
It's a tremendous use case in mining, especially.
Yeah.
Pali?
For me, it's about the farmers, and I think the thing about the whole the value chain from farmers to the shelf. So even the kind of quality of the weather, the kind of predictions and the forecast that you have, the quality of soil to the seed to everything is kind of a very key thing. And let's not forget that India is an agricultural country, and I think for us in manufacturing, I think the majority is going to be part of that population. So I think for me would be to how AI can help the farmers look at the complete supply chain, because I think the key thing for us as well is not just going to be, it's going to be the farmers, it's going to be the manufacturing, and the ability to forecast not just the crop, the ability to forecast the commodities, the ability to forecast the entire, look at what happened. People forecasting what the fires were in the California to Australia. I think AI could do that very, very well. I think so. There are a lot of dynamic changes that are happening, and looking at now today, 25 countries will go for elections, and it's going to be a 40% change. So I think that all holds a lot of impact on what we do in businesses as well. So that's where I would say.
So good.
Could
You
help.
led me to my wrapping up questions, right? By bringing in elections. All three of you are quite excited about the India story, right? In your own ways, you've talked about why this next decade is going to be about India and in your own industries, which is great, right? What's so exciting about India to you, right? Do you think that we're on track to hit the 5 trillion
yes.
mark? So,
I think for me, I can start off and say that India is in a very sweet spot where everybody is looking at, and all the global retailers are looking at the India supply chain and looking at growing businesses here. So I think we are in a great place, the largest democracy, stable at that, and everything is looking good for us. So I think for us, I think it's a great opportunity. Ease of doing business, and I think the whole ecosystem, not just about the startups, the manufacturing, the tech, I think everything here is going to be a very interesting way of looking at what we do.
India started as a debt-based economy, and look at where we are today. In the past 10 years, we've flown up, and the next 10 years, we're 100% going to get right up there. And I think, just coming back to the topic that we've been talking about, we're already seeing it, like you said in the beginning. But we want more women in decision-making bodies. We want more women in the parliament. We want more women there, because they know, what they know what. It takes and what we need in terms of our entire environment more than men do. And if we have them there, we'll really have some great and leapfrog into the spaces that we want to go.
Johnny?
So, there are three key transitions that's shaping the world right now. The supply chain transition, the AI transition or digital transition, and of course the transition to clean energy. And what amazes me is how fantastically India is poised in all of these three. You cannot have conversations about supply chain resilience without talking about India. You cannot have conversations about global clean energy transition without talking about India. You cannot talk about or have conversations on AI scale and building trustworthy technology without talking about India. So to me, the way India is poised right now, I've said this before also, we are transitioning to becoming inevitable India. We've become inevitable to the world of business, to the world of technology, and that, as Dipali said, is an amazing sweet spot to be at.
So Prime Minister's going to be very happy because he's looking at women as a voting bloc. This voting bloc seems to have given him a big thumbs up.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely.
So last question before we wrap up, right? One of the things that all three of you have said, echoed from the green room and also through our conversation, we want to be seen as leaders, not just women leaders. What is it going to take for the other side to see you as leaders and not just say, oh, woman leader? What do we need to do?
I think the important thing here is that how many allies, the allies do you have in an office or in your workplace? I think is going to be a very, very important thing. And also, women, lot of women, like, we have a program called Women of Wealth Fund, where I think women supporting women and creating real great, cheerleaders there is going to be a very important bit.
The women's club, finally.
I think it's going to be a very important aspect to whatever we do. And of course, the respect from the peers. And not because, and it should be gender agnostic. And I think we have a lot going on for ourselves, and it's a great opportunity. And India, I think, is the place for us to be in.
Yeah.
I think we have to break our own mental barrier. I think it's up to us. We need to break apart. When we are in the workplace, we cannot approach individuals as women. We need to approach individuals as a professional, and that's really going to take make what we want happen. And 100% I can see it happening.
The journey. Final word.
Gender matters for the first 1 minute of the conversation. That's it. Then when the conversation starts and you start talking about it, I know no one's thinking about my gender. So to me, it's at least the people who work with me, the industry that know me, no one will dare say women leader. They will not. So I think the transition's already happening, and even if they do, it'll be just that first 60 seconds. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, three of you.
Thank you.
It's just been a really nice conversation. I've taken a lot away, and I hope our viewers have as well. I'm sure they have. So thank you very much for your time. Logging off from cold studio in Davos.